Medford, Massachusetts. Medford is a city 3.2 miles northwest of downtown Boston on the Mystic River in Middlesex County, Massachusetts, United States. In the 2010 U.S. Census, Medford's population was 56,173. It is home to Tufts University, which has its campus along the Medford and Somerville border. Medford was settled in 1630 as part of Charlestown. The area was originally called Mystic by Thomas Dudley, which is partly renamed Medford. The name may have come from a description of the meadow by the ford in the Mystic River, or from two locations in England that Craddock may have known, the hamlet of Mayford or Meatford in Staffordshire near Caverswall, or from the parish of Maidford or Medford. In 1634, the land north of the Mystic River became the private plantation of former Governor Matthew Craddock. Across the river was Ten Hills Farm, which belonged to John Winthrop, governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. In 1637, the first bridge across the Mystic River was built at the site of the present-day Craddock Bridge, which carries Main Street into Medford Square. It would be the only bridge across the Mystic until 1787, and as such became a major route for traffic coming into Boston from the north. The bridge would be rebuilt in 1880 and 1909. Until 1656, all of northern Medford was owned by Craddock, his heirs, or Edward Collins. Medford was governed as a peculiar or private plantation. As the land began to be divided among several people from different families, the new owners began to meet and make decisions locally and increasingly independently from the Charlestown town meeting. In 1674, a board of selectmen was elected. In 1684, the colonial legislature granted the ability to raise money independently, and in 1689, a representative to the legislature was chosen. The town got its own religious meeting room in 1690, and a secular meeting house in 1696. In 1692, the town engaged its first ordained preacher, Reverend John Hancock Sr., grandfather to John Hancock, first and third governor of Massachusetts and famous revolutionary figure. During his time of service, Reverend Hancock lived in Medford, serving until November 1693. The land south of the Mystic River, present-day South Medford, was originally known as Mystic Field. It was transferred from Charlestown to Medford in 1754. This grant also included the Charlestown woodlots, and part of what was at the time Woburn. Other parts of Medford were transferred from Charlestown in 1811, Winchester in 1850, and Malden in 1879. Additional land was transferred to Medford from Malden, Everett, and Malden again. The population of Medford went from 230 in 1700 to 1,114 in 1800. After 1880, the population rapidly expanded, reaching 18,244 by 1900. Farmland was divided into lots and sold to build residential and commercial buildings. Starting in the 1840s and 1850s, government services expanded with the population and technological advancement. Tufts University was chartered in 1852 and the Crane Theological School at Tufts opened in 1869. Medford was incorporated as a city in 1892, and was a center of industry, including the manufacture of tiles and crackers, bricks, rum, and clipper ships, such as the White Swallow and the Kingfisher, both built by Hayden and Cudworth. During the 17th century, a handful of major public roads served the population, but the road network started a long-term expansion in the 18th century. The Medford Turnpike Company was incorporated in 1803, and turned what is now Mystic Avenue over to the city in 1866. The Andover Turnpike Company was incorporated in 1805, and turned what is now Forest Street and Fells Way west over to Medford in 1830. Other major commercial transportation projects included the Middlesex Canal by 1803, the Boston and Lowell Railroad in West Medford in the 1830s, and the Boston and Maine Railroad to Medford Center in 1847. A horse-powered street railway began running to Somerville and Charlestown in 1860. The street railway network expanded in the hands of various private companies, and went electric in the late 1890s, when trolleys to Everett and downtown Boston were available. Streetcars were converted to buses in the 20th century. Interstate 93 was constructed between 1956 and 1963. In 1868, a French astronomer and naturalist, Leopold Trouvelot, was attempting to breed a better silkworm using gypsy moths. Several of the moths escaped from his home, at 27 Myrtle Street. Within 10 years, the insect had denuded the vegetation in the neighborhood. It spread over North America. In a tavern and boarding house on High Street in the late 19th century, local resident James Pierpont wrote Jingle Bells after watching a sleigh race from Medford to Malden. Another local resident, Lydia Maria Child, made a poem out of the trip across town to her grandparents' house, now the classic song Over the River and Through the Wood. Paul Revere's famous Midnight Ride traveled along Main Street, continuing onto High Street in Medford Square. An annual reenactment takes place honoring the historic event. The Peter Tufts House is thought to be the oldest all-brick building in New England. Another important site is the Slave Wall on Grove Street, built by Pomp, a slave owned by the prominent Brooks family. The Isaac Royal House, which once belonged to one of Harvard Law School's founders, Isaac Royal Jr., is a National Historic Landmark and a local history museum. The house was used by Continental Army troops, including George Washington and John Stark, during the American Revolutionary War. George Luther Stearns, an American industrialist and one of John Brown's Secret Six. His passion for the abolitionist cause shaped his life, bringing him into contact with the likes of Abraham Lincoln and Ralph Waldo Emerson and starting The Nation magazine. He was given the rank of Major by Massachusetts Governor John Andrew and spent most of the Civil War recruiting for the 54th and 55th Massachusetts Regiments and the 5th Cavalry. Medford was home to Fanny Farmer, author of one of the world's most famous cookbooks, as well as James Plimpton, the man credited with the 1863 invention of the first practical four-wheeled roller skate, which set off a roller craze that quickly spread across the United States and Europe. Amelia Earhart lived in Medford while working as a social worker in 1925. Elizabeth Short, the victim of an infamous Hollywood murder and who became known as the Black Dahlia, was born in Hyde Park but raised in Medford before going to the West Coast looking for fame. Medford has sent more than its share of athletes to the National Hockey League. Sean Bates, though born in Melrose, Massachusetts, grew up in Medford, as did Keith Tkachuk, Mike Morrison, David Sacco, and Joe Sacco. Former Red Sox pitcher Bill Monboquette grew up in Medford. Medford was home to Michael Bloomberg, American businessman, philanthropist, and the founder of Bloomberg LP. He was the mayor of New York City from 2002 to 2013. Mayor Bloomberg attended Medford High School and resided in Medford until after he graduated from college at Johns Hopkins University. His mother remained a resident of Medford until her death in 2011. The only cryobank of amniotic stem cells in the United States is located in Medford, built by BioCell Center, a biotechnology company led by Giuseppe Simoni. Medford was the location of some famous crimes. Medford is located at 42 degrees 2512 and 71 degrees 629 W, 42.42000 degrees north, 71.10806 degrees west, 42.42000, minus 71.10806. According to the United States Census Bureau, the city has a total area of 8.6 square miles, of which 8.1 square miles of it is land and half a square miles of it is water. A park called the Middlesex Fells Reservation, to the north, is partly within the city. This 2,060-acre preserve is shared by Medford with the municipalities of Winchester, Stoneham, Melrose, and Malden. The Mystic River flows roughly west to southeast through the middle of the city. People from Medford often identify themselves with a particular neighborhood. Irish Americans are a strong presence in the city and live in all areas. South Medford is a traditionally Italian neighborhood. West Medford, the most affluent of Medford's many neighborhoods, was once the bastion of some of Boston's elite families, including Peter Chardon Brooks, one of the wealthiest men in post-colonial America, and father-in-law to Charles Francis Adams, and is also home to an historic African-American neighborhood that dates to the Civil War. As of the census of 2010, there were 56,173 people, 22,810 households, and 13,207 families residing in the city. The population density was 6,859.9 people per square mile. There were 24,046 housing units at an average density of 2,796.0 per square mile. The racial makeup of the city was 78.6% white, 8.80% African American, 0.2% Native American, 6.9% Asian, 0.01% Pacific Islander, 2.8% from other races, and 2.7% from two or more races. Hispanic or Latino of any race were 4.4% of the population. There were 22,810 households, out of which 22.3% had children under the age of 18 living with him, 42.5% were married couples living together, 11.4% had a female householder with no husband present, and 42.1% were non-families. 24.6% of all households were made up of individuals, and 11.1% had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 2.38 and the average family size was 3.00. In the city, the population was spread out, with 13.8% under the age of 15, 14.3% from 15 to 24, 31.7% from 25 to 44, 24.9% from 45 to 64, and 15.2% who were 65 years of age or older. The median age was 37.7 years. For every 100 females, there were 91.5 males. For every 100 females age 18 and over, there were 89.4 males. The median income for a household in the city was $52,476, and the median income for a family was $62,409. Males had a median income of $41,704 versus $34,948 for females. The per capita income for the city was $24,707. About 4.1% of families and 6.4% of the population were below the poverty line, including 5.7% of those under age 18 and 7.4% of those age 65 or over. Medford has 3 public, educational, and government access cable TV channels. The public access television channel is TV3, the educational access television is Channel 15, and 16 is the government access television municipal channel. Medford is home to many schools, public and private. City Council. School Committee. The City of Medford has several local news and media outlets. Numerous Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority bus lines go through Medford, specifically, the 80, 94, 95, 96, 99, 100, 101, 108, and 134 bus routes provide local service and direct connections to nearby areas in Arlington, Somerville, Cambridge, Malden, Charlestown, Winchester, and Woburn, while the 325 and 326 routes provide express service to downtown Boston, and the 710 route is contracted to Joseph's Transportation, a Medford family-owned company. The 90, 97, 106, 110, and 112 bus routes additionally terminate at Wellington Station, providing a direct connection between Medford and nearby areas in Somerville, Everett, Malden, Revere, Chelsea, East Boston, and Melrose. On Medford's east side, Wellington Station on the Orange Line provides a connection to Boston and the entire rapid transit system. On the west side, the Lowell commuter rail line stops in West Medford Square. The Green Line extension, which will bring the Green Line into Medford, as is mandated by environmental mitigation provisions of the Big Dig project, is currently under construction. When completed, the extension will follow the Lowell commuter rail tracks terminating near Tufts University at the intersection of Boston Avenue and College Avenue. A further extension to Mystic Valley Parkway is under environmental review. Joseph's Limousine and Transportation of Medford runs a bus line through the city and also picks up passengers going to other parts of Greater Boston or out of state. Interstate 93 travels roughly north-south through the city. State routes passing through Medford include 16, 28, 38, and 60. 28, 38, and 60. 28.